Welcome to the Costume Plot.
I'm JoJo Siu.
And I'm Sarah Tim. We're professional designers with a passion for costume design and the performing arts. Our podcast does contain spoilers.
We hope you'll join us every other week as we delve into the wonderful world of costume design in the Costume Plot.
Hi, welcome back to the Costume Plot.
Yes. It's weird. We're talking about kind of coming back to like normal episodes this month.
Yeah, we had no idea who was supposed to go first.
It's been so many weeks.
I know. We hope that this podcast finds you well.
We're starting to get the COVID vaccine, so that's exciting. Some new developments.
Life may be slowly getting back to some semblance of normal at some point soon, hopefully.
Yes. And you're going back to work next week, Sarah, so that's exciting.
Yeah. I'm going to be working on a filmed production at South Coast Rep, which is very exciting. There are a lot of rules for even getting in the building and like not eating when I'm inside and stuff.
Yep, you know, the everyday thing.
Challenge for me.
Absolutely.
I'm a snacker at work, so that's going to be challenging.
Oh, no. There's a snacker in all of us, right?
Especially, I mean, this is true on film sets, too, but at theaters, there's always a snack table full of goodies. So, it's tough. There's not going to be that.
It's our sustenance.
I know. How am I supposed to get by without like 15 Oreos in my workday?
I'm always more of like a salty snack person. Like I love goldfish. It's so bad at home.
Salty in one hand, sweet in the other. That's how I like to do it.
That's why those like trail mixes are the best. Gives you a little bit of both.
I love a trail mix.
But yes, it's going to be a weird new normal.
Yeah. I am already like dreading wearing a mask for 8 full hours. I think I'm going to bring multiple ones so that like it doesn't like, I feel like I'm going to get acne on my chin, you know? Gross.
I've already experienced that a few times. It's just like, I need to not have this thing on my face for this long.
Or I need to remember to wash my face like as soon as I get home, you know? Because that's gross.
It's a constant washing.
Yeah. So anyway,
back to our podcast.
We wanted to do a quick reminder that we do have a YouTube channel. So if you're, feeling limited by only looking at our pictures on Instagram and following along there, you can go on YouTube and the full episodes are up. It's just the audio, but then it's a slideshow of all the pictures. So if that's how you prefer to listen, then please go do that.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to be able to see the pictures pop up as we're talking about them as well. So really easily follow along, which is nice.
I think my fire alarm just chirped. I hope it doesn't again.
Uh-oh. Might need a battery change, maybe?
It's like a fancy Wi-Fi one, and it's like hooked up to my sister's. So,
all right.
Podcast.
So many distractions today. It's been one of those mornings.
Yeah. Okay. So today's theme is fairy tales, and we're both really excited to talk about our movies. So let's just get into it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. So, by reading the title of the episode that I'm covering Cinderella. I'm covering the 1997 TV movie.
Yes.
My sister says it's a monthly self-test that it does. Okay, great.
That's good to know. I will say I'm so glad that you're covering this version. I mean, I like the new version as well, but like this is such a classic.
I was waffling between the two because I really do enjoy the Lily James, Kenneth Branagh live action one. But this one has been in the headlines recently because it just had an anniversary and it just came to Disney Plus. So I was like, well, it's the perfect time to cover it. And maybe I'll get to the other one eventually. Who knows? So yeah. Let's see. It was directed by Robert Iscove, and the costumes are by our old friend Ellen Morachnik, whose name you might remember from the Bridgerton episode. That I was really excited when I saw that. She clearly does excellent work. And then I looked at her IMDb to see what she's up to, and she's working on another Cinderella that's coming out this year, I think, and it has Camila Cabello in it. And I was like, Why didn't I know they were making this?
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Me neither. People always be remaking Cinderella. Like,
I mean, I guess
never enough
I guess
versions.
the singing part of it will be great.
Well, I don't know if it's a musical. I mean, I assume it is if they have Camila.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, I'm assuming if they're putting a musician in there that they really want her to be able to sing well. But
yeah, I didn't read it to see if it's also the Rodgers and Hammerstein one or if it's like a Disney thing. I don't know.
That's so weird. I feel like they just came out with the other Cinderella, but maybe that's just my warped sense of time now.
It's a lot. I think really people they're really going for like the nostalgia factor, and studios especially are like, we know that this will sell tickets, so it's not a big gamble to do it. So like they always go with
Cinderella
the safe one
always does well.
Yeah, they know it'll sell tickets, and that's all they're thinking about is money. So anyway, so this is the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, and it's the only Rodgers and Hammerstein musical that was written for TV. And it was written for Julie Andrews, actually. She was in the original version in 1957 on CBS. And then it moved to stage after that, but it's had a couple more iterations on TV. It was done again in 65, and then this one in 97. And they added songs to this one. They added 3 songs that are actually, I thought that they were written for this version, but they were actually borrowed from other Richard Rodgers musicals, which is pretty funny. They're
interesting.
Like, they weren't, he was just like,
I don't want to write something new.
yeah. I didn't look in to see if he was the one who was alive and said, yes, let's use them, or if people were just like, let's just borrow from his other work. I don't know. So, and then this musical finally made it to Broadway in 2013, which is pretty late. And I saw it on its tour and it was wonderful. I loved it. So, and it has really beautiful transformation costumes, like magic quick change costumes. And you can find some of them on YouTube, which is something I always want to do, is watch all of the transformations over and over again.
All the magic moments.
I have gotten to work on one like magic quick change dress, but like nothing as big as the ones that are in that.
Yeah, musical. It's pretty amazing seeing them.
It's engineering, like it's a whole different side of costuming. So I have become sort of like a Cinderella defender because this movie and the Kenneth Branagh one especially make her into a lot more interesting of a person than like, say, the cartoon does. Also Ever After, which is a great adaptation.
Ever After is so good.
So
we'll have to cover that eventually too.
Yes. Yes. And then we'll
just do like another Cinderella episode. All the different versions of.
Like, it's Cinderella year. We're only covering Cinderellas this year, and then we would never run out because there's so many.
It's true.
I really like how she's basically an abuse survivor, right? So this one and the Kenneth Branagh one and Ever After make her into this like radically kind person who like stays positive even though she's faced like a lifetime of mistreatment, and she wants to find love, but it's because she wants someone to see her and appreciate her for who she is, not because she wants to be like rescued, but just because she knows her own value and she's waiting for somebody else to finally see it. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, moving into the costumes. This is the legendary Bernadette Peters as the stepmom and then the 2 stepsisters. And you can see right away that like this is a very colorful world. It seems to have no time period or setting geographically. It's really just like pure fantasy. Which is fun. You can do whatever you want. It's just like a crazy mishmash of all of these styles. This is Calliope, the taller sister. She has like a hobble skirt on, which is so named because you can only hobble in it. You can't really walk because it's so narrow. And the stepmom has one under this crazy tiered skirt too.
Ugh, I love it.
This fabric looks maybe like velvet, like upholstery fabric almost.
Yeah, it really does.
So this is telling us like it opens basically with these people, and it's like this tells us this world is crazy. It's fantasy. It's drama, colorful. And then we have Cinderella, who is, I couldn't get a lot of great shots of her in this because she's carrying huge packages for the whole scene. I have a C. Nope. That's it.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like a loose knit cardigan over just like a very simple sort of muslin colored dress. So this is a situation where everybody else is so crazy that she stands out because she's so plain, you know?
Right. I do love this color palette on her, too.
Yeah.
It's like that really nice rust red.
Yes. So conveniently, the prince is also wearing that color in this first scene, which is a funny scene because they're singing the exact same song, pretending like they don't see each other, but they're like inches apart.
Yeah. Less than the socially distanced 6 feet.
And then like they turn and see each other. It's like he was literally right next to you this whole scene. It's so funny.
That's usually how musicals go, though. It's like so improbable, but we just believe it anyways.
Yeah, suspension of disbelief. And also it's shot in full screen, so the frame is small. So like for two people to be together, they have to be quite close.
Right.
Yeah, so I like that they're both wearing the same color. You know, it tells us that they want the same thing. They're destined for each other. I love his sort of, I mean, this is his outfit in disguise. Like people aren't going to realize that he's the prince because he's wearing like a shirt and pants. He didn't even do like a Jasmine style cloak.
Right.
You know, he was just like, they won't recognize me if I'm not wearing brocade. I don't know.
Maybe it's the lack of embroidery and texture on his costume.
Yeah, I mean, when you see what the royal family wears, I suppose it makes sense. But like, you would think that since the kingdom, the village seems to be so obsessed with him and the fact that he later gives a ball, they would know what his face looks like.
Right.
That's okay. More suspension of disbelief.
I guess it's not like they had TV or like, things where they could actually see his face plastered all over media all the time.
That's true. Maybe they've only seen like illustrations.
Right. Pencil sketches, little stick figure drawings.
Okay. So this is our king and queen, Victor Garber and Whoopi Goldberg, having a ball. You can tell everybody loved making this movie, which is like, that's always fun.
It's been a while since I've seen Whoopi Goldberg in something.
I know. I love her.
I do.
I think they greenlit Sister Act 3, which...
They did?
I think... I remember seeing it like on Twitter or something when it happened. I hope it happens because Sister Acts 1 and 2 are literally like in my top 10 movies.
I do love them so much. So good.
So I love their color palette. Again, very bright. This hot pink thing on Victor Garber is so fun. And I read a little bit... I found a scan of a page from the book, The Art of Disney Costuming, that talked like very briefly about this movie. And apparently they didn't have that big of a budget. And I think that you wouldn't know that unless you were told, because like the fabrics looks very luxurious. Nothing looks like cheap, I would say, for the most part.
There's a few exceptions.
Yeah. I mean, it all looks pretty darn good. But it's funny because they actually, most of the characters at the end of the movie go back to what they're wearing at the beginning. So they kind of like recycle the first looks into their, so like most of the characters have like 2 outfits, maybe 3.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we can see that there's not a lot of budget.
Right.
But I like sort of like the sari fabric that Victor Garber has on. And here's like a wide shot where you can see it's nice and long.
That is almost like an Indian coat. Very Indian inspired.
Yeah. And I think that using sari fabrics and using like fabrics that have like a metallic or an interesting pattern is like an easy way to make things look luxurious without having to put like a ton of trim or crystals on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think they look great. Whoopi Goldberg wearing burgundy velvet. I love the natural hairstyle she has. Very good. Very good. No notes. Looks great.
No notes.
So here we have the stepmother during the princess giving a ball scene, and she looks cuckoo bananas in this scene. I mean, everybody
that like floating thing around her head.
Yeah.
It's so
great.
great.
It's like a sheer, like sort of shawl Except she's also wearing this large headpiece, which don't worry, I have a picture of it.
Oh my goodness.
There it is. It looks like clock hands, like wacky clock hands.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Like all stapled together.
I think it's great.
She looks very like, for some reason, she just makes me think of like Ursula. Like, I feel like these are things that she could have collected from the bottom of the sea and just like fashioned into like a little headdress.
I love that visual. It's hilarious.
Maybe it's also that she's wearing that purple like high-necked collar.
Yeah, she does wear a good amount of purple.
Mm-hmm.
She does. So yeah, that's a fun look.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like this purple fabric. Mm-hmm. It once again looks sort of like Indian-esque.
Yeah, it's got that like Indian trim that's typically on the sari as well. And then like the small gold embroidery.
Oh, I don't have a picture of him, but I wrote down in my notes, Jason Alexander doing the same inscrutable accent as the stylist in The Princess Diaries. Because he's doing this weird, it sounds like New York, Brooklyn, and then it sounds vaguely European, and it's like nothing. It's just an accent, but it isn't a real accent. It's pretty funny. Okay.
So funny.
So here we have the Step family once again. And this is when they're getting ready to go to the ball. And I love that they're basically like dressing gowns and underwear are as exciting and interesting as their actual clothes.
Yep.
One thing I didn't appreciate is once again, there's a tight lacing scene because we always have to have one of those. And it was on Minerva, who is like the shorter, curvier sister. And I was like, okay, like, of course, like the curvy one is the one who has to be squeezed into a corset, of course. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, I love how elaborate this is. Like this petticoat she has is like so many different fabrics and it's like really voluminous and fun. And then the taller sister is very Carol Burnett. Like she looks like Carol Burnett the whole movie. It's like she's
I love
doing
that
an
like
impression of
headdress
her.
that she's got going on. It's almost like she layered multiple shower caps onto it and like just attached to them.
Yeah, it's like a bonnet, I guess.
Okay,
And
I see.
I don't know, for like, you know, like people wear to sleep or to put over their curlers. That's kind of the vibe it's giving me.
I love it.
I love this like peachy apricot color of Minerva's outfit. I think it's really nice. Okay. And then Calliope's is like, it looks like burnout velvet maybe?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's almost got a slightly 1920s vibe to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like those draped, they're not really dresses. They're more like kind of like capes, I guess.
Yeah,
but
where it has sort of like the swag shape of like a, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Also, their house is insane looking. Like it looks like a Disneyland ride. Like it's wild.
like look at that wallpaper and that weirdly shaped door.
It's this whole movie is so fun. It used to be on YouTube and I watched it many times just like on YouTube. I think we watched it once in the shop at Fullerton because we found it.
I'm pretty sure.
YouTube.
I feel like I walked in when that happened with Rachel's class, probably.
Yeah, that's the best. I love watching movies at work. Okay, so now we are going to the ball, and here is Bernadette in purple again. This costume is so pretty. It's very much. So this is 97. So you can kind of see the 97-ness in like some of the silhouettes. I think that the volume starting at the hip instead of the waist is pretty, it's very late 90s, early 2000s to me. Cause like,
Yeah.
I remember like formal dresses at the time looking like that.
It's like almost a slightly dropped waist. Which I always hated because I was like, I'm too short for this. Like, this is so unflattering on my body.
Oh, yeah. I have like a pretty good hourglass. And then, but dresses like that, I always felt like just kind of emphasized my belly, like, and made me look like I have a really long torso.
Right.
So it's not my favorite silhouette on me.
Maybe for someone taller.
Other people, yep. And then here's a close-up of her bodice and her jewelry. I think it's I don't know how I feel. I think it's beautiful, but there's something about it that I can't quite articulate what it's making me think or how it's making me feel.
I feel like there's a very almost maybe it is a very 90s thing, but there is a little bit of that craftiness that feels almost kind of kitschy.
Yes.
So I think it is bordering on that like not quite bad, but it could go really bad.
Yeah, like
she walks a fine line with this design. Let's just say that.
I feel like from far away it looks really good and expensive, and then like when you zoom in, it looks a little bit like the stones are kind of hot glued on willy-nilly. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's like some mom decided to craft her own dress and decided she needed more jewels and got her bejeweler set out.
The jewelry is very interesting. It looks like, I wonder if it's metal or if it's something else. It looks almost like gold plastic to me. I don't know if that's true. I'm sorry to the people who make it if it's not true.
That could have been the effect too, though. Because, there is something said about how she's trying to, I don't want to say create this character, but she wants to look richer than she actually is. And maybe her version of, it's kind of like how I feel about Bridgerton. There's that mom who, her and her 3 daughters are in that really ugly kind of chartreuse color. And they're supposed to look kind of over the top and exaggerated and a little like they crafted everything themselves, even though it's like way too much for everybody else.
Right. It is unclear to me, like there's not a lot of background in this movie because it's like only an hour and 20 minutes or whatever. So It's not clear if the step family is like rich or if they are so desperate to marry the prince because like they need to raise their status.
Right.
Not sure. I do like it from far away though. I love the swirls. I think it's very fun and fantasy.
It definitely looks much more luxurious from far away.
Yeah. And so here we have the sisters at the ball. And I love Minerva. Well, I love both of these dresses, but I love Minerva's especially because it's like this iridescent lame that is just so pretty and sparkly. I have a second picture where you can kind of see the skirt. I know.
I love this shot.
Oh, this picture is bad quality. Whoops. I like it too much.
Oh, that's pretty great.
It's like iridescent organza and lame just like layered on top of each other. I think it's so cool. And then Calliope's is like this crazy lampshade thing, which it was probably really difficult to make, but looks really cool. Oh, and the makeup in this movie is also very, very late 90s. Like, you can't really see it in these pictures, but they have, like, full, like, Bonnie Bell glitter gel highlights. And I'm like, oh, my God, that was me.
I remember that from I do remember that from when Brandy's character comes out at the end. Doesn't she have, like, a whole bunch of glitter on her cheek, too?
In her wedding dress? I didn't get any pictures of it.
Or maybe I'm thinking of Whitney Houston.
Yeah, I think Brandy actually, like I wrote in my notes that like her makeup stays pretty matte the whole time. Like it's not very glossy, not a lot of dewiness, like very matte eyeshadow, very thin eyebrows, very 90s. I have a couple pictures later on of the ensemble at the ball, and they are so different from what these step family are wearing. So they really stand out.
Yeah.
Because they look cuckoo. Okay. So next is Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston.
And she produced this movie, which is fun. I heard that she originally wanted to play Cinderella herself. And then like, she was like, oh, wait, that might not be a good idea. Like I might not be the right age. That might just be a rumor though. So I have complicated feelings about this costume. I think that it is kind of cheap looking.
Yeah.
It's effective. I like the fabric choice. It's like kind of sparkly, but I think that the embellishment on it could look more expensive than it does. I think it looks a little bit like if you're going to use stones like this, especially on camera, they should be nice ones. They look kind of plasticky.
This almost gives me the same effect as Bernadette's
Right.
front dress. It's kind of this like hot glued on giant Michael's gemstones, like very kitschy.
Right. A little bit, as my friend Eric would say, Becky Homecky.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like the actual dress, and like her little cape that is attached to her fingers is cute.
I'm trying to figure out what this material is, because in that last shot, it almost looks like latex. I think just because of the way that it's kind of see-through and stretched over her bust.
Yeah. It's
But, like,
very shiny.
Yeah. Because in like your second image, I can't tell if it's transparent or not. Like it doesn't look as transparent here, but with the other shot, because you can actually see like the neckline.
Look at this. Look at it has a pattern in it.
Oh, interesting.
My guess would be, I feel like I had clothes made of stuff like this in the 90s and early 2000s, sort of like polyestery, stretchy, very
it's
slinky.
like that cheap, like spandexy kind of. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think it is sheer. I think it's 2 layers.
Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see right here in the skirt that it looks like it may be a layer of sheer on top of another layer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's sort of like the holographic sparkle effect is cool.
Could be. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's the embellishment that is the problem.
They're also in kind of random places.
You know what I mean?
Like I'm curious what the goal was for like how she laid those out.
Yeah, and the shapes are confusing too. I mean, look, the wall next to her has the same shapes. Like was this like a trend? Like 'cause
match your wallpaper.
it almost reminds me of like home decor from a certain era. Do you know what I mean? Like triangles and swirls were like sort of like
the geometric decor shapes.
Yeah. It's just a bit confusing. But I had a second sort of thought. I will say I think this could be greatly improved with some Swarovskis, but there are not many outfits that couldn't be. I do like how different she is, so because everybody else on screen looks so cuckoo bananas that she comes in this like streamlined silhouette, this all one color, you know, with this beautiful hair, and I think it really like is sort of like she's sort of like a visual break from all of the insanity that everybody else is wearing. So I do like that she looks so different, and that helps her look more magical and ethereal.
Mm-hmm. Good job, Whitney Houston.
Yeah, I mean, she's great in this role. She's great. Okay, so let's talk about Cinderella's dress finally. Beautiful.
So beautiful.
There are so many iterations of Cinderella's, classic blue or silver dress at the ball. Mm-hmm. And this one is very of its time. It's very late 90s.
Right.
But I think it's very effective. I had to kind of think about the fact that, like, at the time in the late 90s, there weren't nearly as many Cinderellas as there are now.
It's true.
So it had probably been quite a while since people had seen a live action Cinderella. So it needed to be something like really fresh and exciting and of the time for it to make an impact. And also it's exciting that she is Black. So like that makes its own statement too. And so it's like she's like everything was all about like the new millennium. She's like a Cinderella for the new millennium, the Y2K era.
Right.
So I think it's really pretty. It's really simple, but it's very pretty. She's got crystals.
Yeah.
This is where they spent their crystal budget. Is on this.
Probably why they didn't have enough left over for Whitney Houston.
Yeah. And then here's her makeup. You can see, like I said, very matte, just like only blue, super thin brows. But she looks beautiful.
Also very 90s though. It's like that really high contrast light blue eyeshadow was very common in that time.
Mm-hmm. It's not as like, I think that makeup got a lot frostier, maybe like the year 2000-ish, because I associate early 2000s makeup with like really metallic and frostiness, but she doesn't have any of that.
Yeah.
This picture is from the Art of Disney costuming book. So it's a nice shot of the silhouette from the side. I like how the bodice like extends in the back.
I do love that.
The sleeve detail is really pretty. Love that. It's sort of like got like this little swag shape as sort of maybe like a reference to sort of classic princess gowns, you know? Very pretty.
It's the little details.
Oh yeah, I wrote it fits her perfectly because it does. Yeah, I think it's really nice. I wrote in my notes, I think it's okay, and I think I've warmed up to it a little bit more since I took
the longer
note.
you stare at it, the more it grows on you.
I think it's really pretty. So here's the ensemble at the ball, and this is interesting because like if they didn't have that much of a budget, that makes me go, where did they get all of these dresses that are identical to each other? I mean, in this shot, obviously they're not identical, but like everybody at the ball is wearing the same colors. So it's like a variation of purpley, blue, turquoisey, like, and then we have Cinderella in very pale blue. So it makes me wonder if they found all these gowns somehow, or if they just like
I wonder if
them.
Ellen maybe had like some sort of connection with like a prom house or something like that.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that way they have, they have all the colors or all the kind of nearby colors in one section. And they do some sort of like a studio rental or something. Yeah.
Maybe they purchased, because it looks like a lot of them have sort of like a tulle overlay. So maybe it's like they purchased them and then added a bunch of tulle to kind of marry them all together. I grabbed this one because it's like has like sort of celestial star pattern on the skirt on the left there. And then all the men are in sort of like blue, purple tux.
It's a really nice color palette for sure.
Yeah. It does what we always talk about, which is the leads really stand out because everybody else is wearing the same colors. So I was really good, and I edited my pictures down. I have no pictures of the prince. I'm sorry.
It's real hard.
I really wanted to talk about the ensemble and all the dresses, so I cut him. I'm sorry. You look very handsome. Okay, so I have some pictures of feet just to close out.
Some pictures of feet. Oh,
for all
look
you
at those
fans
stockings.
I know. So I like this is the scene where the glass slipper is being tried on all around the kingdom, and it's like a parade of really cute tights. That's why I pulled all the, because like they're all so cute. And this is only 3, and there's so many.
Yeah.
I hate the glass slipper. I hate it.
Yeah, it's super ugly.
It looks like a loafer made of clear vinyl.
You're right. It doesn't really have very much of a nice, like, sleek shape, which is what you'd expect.
It doesn't look like glass. It looks like lucite or vinyl. I think the only live action glass slippers I've enjoyed are the one in the new one, but it was like heavily CGI'd.
Yeah.
But they made them. I think they made them, and they look really like faceted, like crystal.
Uh-huh.
And then I like the version in Ever After where it's kind of just like the heel is glass and then the rest of it is like really beaded silver. It's like a mule.
I have to rewatch the movie, but yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Times. Yeah. And then when they do it on stage, it's like sort of like a stripper heel, but it's like really crystalled. So like I think that crystals really help sell the sort of sparkly glass thing. This is like not it.
Especially when you're zooming in that close to actually look at the slipper up close. It's like you really want it to look dazzling, and this just does not do that.
Also, I don't have any pictures of it, but just like imagine just Brandy's feet in these. She wasn't wearing tights. It's just like toes.
It's just like toes.
It's just like, welcome to my toes. Like, it doesn't look expensive. I'm sorry, Ellen, Mirage, Nick, I don't like them. I don't. I just don't.
Like, at that point, you might as well wear, flip-flops or like...
Well,
we're going to see your toes anyways.
That transitions me into this, which is the shoes that Brandy takes off to put it on at the end of the movie. This is just like a full, like, Walmart house slipper.
Yup. I think I have those slippers.
I've bought these for shows where we have like an old lady character who shuffles around her house.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think it's kind of hilarious. I would love to talk to someone about how they arrived at these.
Talk to someone.
I'd like to know why.
Yeah.
And my sister was like, maybe they like didn't like whatever option they had, because earlier in the movie she's wearing boots. So, and then she was like, what if they grabbed these from like Brandy's trailer or like from the costuming department? Because they were like, we need something she can just slide on and off really quick.
Right. It also makes me wonder, because like, you know, a lot of the thing has to do with sometimes the shoe size you're working with. Because like, I mean, I don't know what Brandy's shoe size is, but sometimes that can be difficult too, is like, you'll find all these cool shoes that you want or that you wish you had, but then they don't come in the size of your actor. Or if your actor has particularly big feet, it's a lot harder to find a dainty looking shoe or a dainty looking something or other that they can slip off, you know, that doesn't look like this. So right. I wonder if part of it might have also been like shoe size or just, you know, the options of shoes at that time. Because I feel like nowadays we've really come into a moment where we're really honing in on designing shoes in a very intricate way. And not that they didn't have cool shoes back then, but I feel like, you know, the manufacturing might have been different back in the 90s.
Well, and they didn't have Amazon Prime. So
right.
like maybe it was a timing issue where they were like, shoot, like none of the shoes that we bought for this scene are working. She can't take it off fast enough, or
right.
it looks wrong.
And we can't just order something that'll arrive tomorrow.
Yeah. So they were like, run down to CVS and see if you can find some slippers, or go to the wardrobe trailer where they have slippers for people and just
right.
grab some, you know, like it could have been. It could have been. I just want to know. I just want to know what happened.
Just tell us.
Or if this was very intentional and they were like, yeah, she's wearing house shoes because like that's what people wear around the house. I don't know.
I mean, I guess in this house where there's so much crazy over exaggeration, it wouldn't be that far fetched.
Right. And okay, I'm cautious to say this as like a white person, but I know that like a lot of people associate this kind of slipper with like their black grandma. Like it seems sort of like I don't know. It's like, I mean, my grandma wears shoes like this around the house too. So I don't know if it's like an intentional, it's like if it's made to make us think about that, or if it truly is just like, this is what we had. I don't know. I don't know.
So many questions. This is another one of those where we just need to bring Ellen Mirojnick on this podcast.
Ellen, if you're listening, please get in contact with us.
Please answer our troubles and our woes.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that they didn't intend for anybody to pull the screen cap out and talk about the house shoes for 5 minutes, but it's happened, so you can't stop us.
It's already out there.
Yep. So that's it for Cinderella. Please watch it on Disney Plus. It's a delight. I think that I am a Rodgers and Hammerstein super fan, and I think that it's a really sort of like underappreciated Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. I loved the 60s version when I was a kid, and now I want to watch it again and see.
I don't know if I've ever seen the 60s version.
I don't remember a lot of it. I remember that like a lot of it looks like it was filmed indoors, even when they're supposed to be outdoors.
Like indoors in a studio, or like just in someone's house indoors?
No, in like a studio. And like sets that were made to look sort of outdoorsy, but they are not fooling anybody. That kind of vibe. I wonder if it's out there. I wonder if it's on YouTube anywhere. But yeah, so
I'm sure.
Watch it. It's a great hour and 20 minutes. And that's it for me.
Yay, so exciting. Yeah. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Okay, I will pull up. Did we need to take a water break, or you're doing okay?
I think I'm okay. Are you good?
Okay, I'm doing good.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Me too. Okay, so I'm super excited to be covering Mirror Mirror. This is another movie/live action that's been done quite a few times in multiple different varieties. The story of Snow White. I do love the way that this particular film, kind of similar to what you said with Cinderella, or your version of Cinderella, where they really emphasized kind of the strength of Snow White and almost like her independence. Whereas in the original Disney movie, she's a little bit like, I mean, this was their first Disney movie that they ever released, you know, I mean, the cartoon, I should say. Yeah. But, so I think that time period, her character was not as as strong as we see women today. So I love that this version really emphasizes Snow White being able to do things on her own and being able to fight her own battles. And even though there is a love story involved and there is the evil queen, it's very much about her kind of finding her own strength and discovering that.
That's awesome.
So I really love that about this version of Snow White. This particular movie is absolutely a visual feast. It is one of my favorite costume designers. I'll talk a little bit more about the release first. So it was released in 2012, so not too long ago. The director was Tarsum Singh, who he's actually worked with the costume designer that I'll talk about in a second quite a few times. So this was their fourth movie together, I believe. He's an Indian director who did, if you don't know, the Emerald City is one of the newer shows that he's doing about Oz, which I haven't seen, but I'm very excited because I just love Wizard of Oz stuff. He also did The Cell with Jennifer Lopez, Immortals, and then one of his greatest passion projects, which I had to watch in a grad school class, but it is the most beautiful movie I've ever seen. It's called The Fall.
I have heard of. I know the costumes from The Fall. I've never seen it, but I have
Oh my
seen
gosh,
pictures.
it's a beautiful movie. It's actually, they say it's his passion project because it literally took him, I think, like 10 years to film it. Just because, and they were constantly, running out of budget and running out of everything. But again, it's just so visually breathtaking. And that's very characteristic of a lot of his work, which is also why he continually works with a costume designer. So Aiko Ishioka, who's she's Tokyo born. She actually started out as a graphic designer, but again, she's literally done all of these movies with him. So she did The Cell with him, she did Immortal, she did The Fall, and then of course Mirror Mirror. And I'm a little sad about this because Mirror Mirror was actually her swan song project, and she passed before she even got to finish the movie or before it even got released. Which is, very, very sad for all of us who lost her because she was such a visionary in terms of costumes. And you can definitely see the graphic design quality of her work. Mm-hmm. She also won the Oscar for Bram Stoker's Dracula. So it's the newest version of the movie with Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder, which is beautiful. If you haven't seen that, that's another great one. And then she also got nominated for a Tony for Madame Butterfly. So she's kind of dabbled a little bit in a bunch of different things. But again, like I said, this was her final project. So, and what a beautiful project it is. I really love this particular movie because one of the things I did want to talk about in particular was that this movie really showcases how costumes can really be about evoking an emotion as opposed to just about the storytelling, because there's a lot of kind of impractical storytelling things that happen in this movie. A lot of the costumes don't necessarily make sense in a logical way when we talk about why she's wearing certain colors or why she's wearing certain shapes and silhouettes. But boy, you're going to be staring at how beautiful those costumes are. And I think Aiko really paid attention to what her costumes look like against the backdrop, in addition to just looking at, what she's actually designing. So just to give you a little bit of background about the sheer amount and number of costumes that she worked with. And I think she tended to do this with a lot of her pieces. She worked on a really grand scale and she knew how to do that very well. And she also was just one of those people who she kind of either went 100% or 110% full throttle or she did zero. So there was never really an in-between for her, which is one of the things her director said about her after she passed. So the costumes were made in a combination of places. Her shop in Montreal. It was also a combination of New York's Tricorn costumes, Jennifer Love costumes, Corelli costumes, and Eric Winterling costumes. Most of these places, I have no idea where they are, but I assume a lot of them are in New York, other than her shop in Montreal, of course. So then in total, she had 400 costumes custom made for Mirror Mirror.
400?
And then she had over 600 costumes that were rented and altered for Mirror Mirror. That's ridiculous. I can't even begin to talk about how many costumes that is. We talked about how the sheer amount of costumes in Bridgerton. This, this just like overshadows that completely.
And this is one movie, and Bridgerton is like a 10-episode show. That's crazy.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, the fact that, you know, if you're going to make this your swan song, like this is going to be the one. So anyways, I just wanted to start with all that copious amounts of information about her costumes.
She's a legend.
All right, so I'll start with this is kind of in order in the film. So, of course, we see Snow White first in her princess dress. And one of the things that Aiko Ishioka talked about when she wanted to create this costume was that she wanted to tie Snow White in with nature. And it specifically is more seen in the beginning, I think. And of course, she's covered in these flowers. Her time period, because this isn't really set in a specific time period, it goes anywhere from like the Renaissance all the way up till probably the late 18th century. So you'll see a variety of different silhouettes. But again, because there's not a specific time period and because this is such a fantastical environment, she really had pretty much free reign to kind of do whatever she wanted. So this particular one has a little bit more of a Renaissance silhouette. We've got kind of the Tudor era, like little petals for her peplum.
Yeah, little tabs.
Yeah, the little tabs that she's got on her bodice. And then the skirt shape as well is very Renaissance. All right, so we've gone over this. She has a lot of florals on her dress and all over the top. It's weird because it almost feels like part of it is peeling off. And I don't know if that was intentional or if they just used like a fabric stamp or curious. Who knows? That'll be a question, I guess, one day when I meet Ishioka again.
in heaven.
Okay, so this next one, there's a lot of kind of animal creatures that she uses in there's a particular ball scene where she has everyone dressed in these beautiful dresses, and then she has them each having some sort of animal equivalent. So they have some sort of animal headdress. So this is actually from the ball scene, but Nathan Lane also plays kind of the assistant, a very downtrodden assistant to Julia Roberts, who is our evil queen. But I loved this outfit because I wanted to emphasize the fact that his coat has actually been made to just stand out very much like a cockroach. And spoiler alert, he does get turned into a cockroach for a short period of time later on. So I love that she's already kind of given us this hint that he's going to turn into a bug and that he already is kind of the bug of the piece because he's so abused the whole time. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of like that bug that you just want to get out of the way. And I think Julia Roberts definitely treats him like that the entire time. So it works very well. Moving on.
Oh my gosh.
So this is the first dress that we see Julia Roberts in. So one of the things that I love about how well Ishioka has thought about this is that she's really thought about the entire big picture of this film. It's not just about how beautiful all of these details are. She's really paying attention to how the colors of the characters really line up with each other. And I'll talk a little bit about this as I go through, but I love that she constantly has kind of parallel moments in both Snow White and the Queen's life happening in very similar or pretty much the same colors. So like obviously this is our first appearance and you see that kind of same peach that Snow White is wearing reflected in the peach dress that's worn by Julia Roberts. I love that she's just sitting in this like shell-like throne when you first see her and she's just kind of laid back. The other thing I really wanted to zoom in on, which I think this picture captures really well, is her sleeve because it's got this built out almost like heart shape, but it's just standing there. And then she's also encapsulated that with an additional like embroidered diamond, which is just incredible.
It's so cool. So,
I don't have a lot to say about these first two dresses. I just wanted to like put it out there because they're just so gorgeous. And this is the first thing you see. So it really does, again, introduce you to the world of Ishioka's work. And the remainder of her costumes are going to be pretty much just as spectacular as this.
Those sleeves are kind of giving me a Tudor feeling. It's
very much
like
so.
A reference, but it's like not literal, you know, it's just kind of like an evoking sort of like the vibe of a Tudor.
Yeah, definitely. Dress. And this is kind of where it starts. She actually does get a lot more Tudor in the other sleeve shapes that Ishioka puts on her. So she starts getting kind of those long draped over sleeves that are very common from that time period.
Cool.
So yeah, lots of influence from the Tudor period here. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Then we go to the scene. This is kind of a short cut-in scene at the beginning to introduce our prince. And I don't have a ton to say about the prince because, again, we have to, filter down. But I wanted to pull this picture because I wanted to show just the dwarves and like how creative Ishioka was with this, because it's this fact that, the 7 dwarves are actually this band of thieves that kind of steal money from the rich that are crossing through their forest. And so their way of being more intimidating is to be walking and kind of bouncing around on these accordion stilts that they just run around through the forest on. And it's funny because, when you first see them, you don't think that they're dwarves and you're just kind of like, okay, who are these random bandits? And then you realize when the prince finally gets bested by the 7 of them, you just see them kind of all lower down their accordions and then they shrink down to their actual size. And I wish that I had captured that whole movement down because it's just so hilarious. And you can tell the dwarves in this movie are certainly our comic relief. I mean, there's quite a few bits of comic relief here. And it's interesting because it's Tarsem directing. You can actually tell there's a lot of very Indian kind of corny cultural jokes, if that makes any sense. Like you're not necessarily saying things in Indian jokes, but I think there's something about Indian, what's the right word, filmmaking that kind of pushes that exaggerated corniness that you definitely catch in this movie as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about the dwarves in a second, but I just love this image and seeing kind of this very acrobatic and very circus-like feature of Ishioka's work, because I think she's also designed some stuff for Cirque as well. So having that knowledge definitely makes sense here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the gold robe. Classic. So like I mentioned before, this is totally impractical. Anyone trying to sneak out of the castle would not wear something this bright.
Bright yellow.
Exactly. But I mean, it's so beautiful.
Beautiful.
And we'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but there's a really nice foreshadowing moment because when she wears this giant cloak, Julia Roberts actually wears a very similar silhouette in a cloak shape towards the end of the movie. But hers is in like this vibrant blue and she's kind of riding out at night. And that's when she's trying to actually go after Snow White and kill her. So in this first appearance that we see of Snow White in the gold, and this was kind of my own notes to myself, so I don't know if this was actually Ishioka's intent, but I love that even though this is obviously not a good way to sneak out of the castle, I love that the gold that she's wearing in this actually sort of represents the sun. And then when Julia Roberts kind of blue cloak to parallel that later on, it's sort of her representing the night. So there's a very clear kind of good versus evil. And the best thing... And I'll actually, let's see. Okay, so I pulled this photo because it's her in the yellow cloak when she's going to visit the town because she wants to see the conditions of the town that her father has basically ruled over for a long time. And this is her first experience seeing how poor they've gotten, how the queen has basically taken over the land and taxed them like way too much. But again, it's this idea that she's sort of the golden sun in the midst of this really drab place. So I think, again, very, very symbolic. I love that. Even if this wasn't Ishioka's intent, that's kind of what we're seeing here. So yes, and still kind of matching in with that same color palette. Like even though it's a much more vibrant and saturate yellow, it still fits in with the rest of the browns that's in this scene. So then we go to the first gold dress that we see Julia Roberts in. And this dress is actually recycled quite a bit throughout this movie. And this is where I'm talking about that kind of Tudor draped oversleeve that she's got. And one of the things that I really love about this, it's actually even more Elizabethan because she's got that really long bodice and kind of that lowered neckline. But this is always the color that she wears whenever she enters the mirror world. So her way of entering the mirror, whenever she says, mirror, mirror, who's the fairest of them all, she actually walks through the mirror and then ends up coming up through the water into this like deserted wigwam somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
I need to watch this movie, clearly. Like, this sounds crazy.
Oh, you haven't seen this movie yet?
I was gonna watch it because you're covering it, and then I never got around to it, which happens to me every time.
Please do watch it. Like I said, it's one of those stories where it's like the storyline isn't the strongest. It's very like, okay, like kids Disney, Snow White version, but costumes, man, it's pretty phenomenal. So she's always wearing this gold dress anytime she enters into the mirror. And the way that they've presented the mirror is that it's actually her confronting herself. So it's a very kind of Dorian Gray moment where it's like she doesn't want to age. So her way of preserving her youthfulness is actually to trap another soul in this necklace that she has, that she's constantly wearing. And I won't really spoil that part of it, but either way, whenever she's facing herself in the mirror version of herself that kind of talks to her is this much younger version. And there's this whole joke about how like the mirror version doesn't have wrinkles, whereas the real version or her version does. So again, every time she enters this kind of holy haven, she's always in this gold. But the interesting thing again is that right when we see Snow White kind of entering the town in this golden cloak, this is when we see her in the gold kind of going into her own haven. So it's like they're each kind of going to their own separate outside location, outside of their comfort zone. That's, maybe their private safety. But they're in, again, the same kind of parallel colors. Moving on. This is the same yellow dress or gold dress, but I wanted to there's a zoomed in picture of like how much pleating they've done on her bodice and on her sleeves, which is incredible. And then of course they add even more so that giant Elizabethan ruff to just kind of give her that sort of head on a plate effect, which is very common from that time period. So just wanted to show another quick picture of that.
So cool.
So let's go back to the dwarves really quick. I pulled this like really nice vanity shot of them because I loved that Ishioka has really given each of them a character. And they don't necessarily, like we don't have like a one for one, it's not the same 7 dwarves that are in the original Disney movie. Right. But there's some crossovers here and there. But I wanted to kind of list how she sort of separated them, and it's mostly with their hats, which I love. So the guy with the wolf pelt, I kind of equated him with like our equivalent of Sneezy, but he's kind of the eccentric one. He just goes around pretty much howling like a wolf all the time, and that's literally his name. So he introduces himself as Wolf. The metal knight's helmet, the guy in the kind of metal armor or medieval armor, he's Will Grimm. And he's kind of our Doc equivalent. So he's kind of like the smart one. The whole joke at the end is that because his last name is Grimm, he ends up being the one to write all the little fairy tales.
Cute.
But he's also kind of our leader. And so, he has the helmet to kind of symbolize that. The French leather beret, this is Grub. And I kind of equated it with Dopey, but he's always the one that's hungry. So like every line is him being like, I want more food, or like food is always the priority, or like he always has to be eating something. And then the leather cowboy hat, he's our Grumpy. So he's the one that kind of out the gate like doesn't trust Snow White. We have Napoleon, who obviously is wearing the Napoleonic bicorn hat. And I kind of saw him as... I don't really know if I saw him as an equivalent. He didn't have like a specific equivalent for him. I think he was the only one that I was kind of like, I'm not really sure where he belongs. The leather kind of suede lyra pipe that we've got going on here. And a lyra pipe is basically like a giant long stocking cap, essentially. So it's very much like that kind of Christmas Carol Scrooge hat. Yep. But it's all made out of leather here. And he is called Half Pint. And he's kind of our bashful equivalent. So he's the one that's sort of the overly romantic. He's like secretly, but not so secretly in love with Snow White. And he's just constantly like trying to woo her, even though she's clearly...
I like how he has like a prince cape.
Yeah. He's definitely the romantic the entire time. And
so cute.
He gets like weirdly jealous when he finds out she's in love with the prince instead of him. So yes. And then the squished top hat back here, our little Asian one. He's Chuck. They also call him Chuckles. So he's obviously our Happy. And it's just funny because he's not like happy in the normal sense of the word. He kind of does this kind of maniacal sort of crazy laugh a lot of the time. But he's like always laughing. So yes, I love that she's kind of given a hat to sort of symbolize each of these different dwarves and their characters. Okay, so that's all I had to say about that. I wanted to spend some time on the dwarves because they were just adorable. Okay, so then there's a ballroom scene. And of course, the queen has thrown this giant ball because her plan, because she's run out of money, instead of just taxing the people, which she has also done, she decides that she's going to marry the prince, who somehow, because he's been basically robbed by these dwarf bandits. And so he ends up in the queen's court totally in his underwear. And this happens multiple times. He gets robbed by these same dwarves like 3 or 4 times. So it's this really funny running joke throughout the entire movie. But of course, when the queen sees him, her instant thought is, great, this is a way to solve all my money problems. I'm just going to get married to this prince. And of course, he's not in love with her. He's in love with Snow White. But she holds this giant ball to announce to the public. She's basically forcing him into engagement with her, right? Mm-hmm. So at this ball, the idea is that they're constantly changing partners. So it's very much like a speed dating kind of thing. So you dance with one partner, then you switch to the next partner and kind of shift around. And each of the ball gown members, I didn't pull too many images of the ball just because I didn't have enough images and it was too many. So I wanted to pull this particular dress for Snow White. One of the things that Ishioka talked about was that the swan wings almost... and actually, this was not necessarily Ishioka's words. It was someone else kind of making the suggestion that it was almost like her wish to escape the cruel queen. So that's why she was represented by a bird. Everyone in the scene is actually in some form of cream. So she doesn't actually stand out. And the intention of this is that she's trying to sneak into this ball. So she's hiding. So the queen doesn't recognize her. But of course, the prince ends up getting paired with her very last minute, even though the queen is trying to dance with him. And he ends up, because he wants to talk to her so long, he spends this whole dance basically pushing other suitors out of the way. And so he just continues to dance with her every time they turn around to switch partners.
Cute.
So yes, she ends up getting banished into the woods. So this is where she basically gets exiled out of the kingdom. But instead of sending the huntsman, she actually sends Nathan Lane, who's, her kind of bumbling cockroach assistant. So, of course, he doesn't kill her, but basically she ends up in the forest without her wings and her swan head in this, beautiful white lace gown. And you can see here there's all this detail in her bodice and her, incredible lace gloves that she's got on.
Those
yeah, and the sleeves. It's just incredible. Yeah. Okay, I don't think I have it. But there's, right after this, so when she falls in the snow in white is when the queen hears back from Nathan Lane, and she's dressed in this head to toe kind of cream nightgown. So again, parallel colors. I'm going to keep mentioning this, but not very practical in terms of the story plot, but very much about the symbolic, tying in of all the characters. So she's really looking at the big picture very well. Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on to the peacock dress. So again, this is that same ball scene. She's the only one in the red. And I think I've got a bigger picture. Yeah, there it is. Oh, it's so beautiful. So it's, obviously there's a lot of Rococo, 18th century, late Georgian era silhouette to this particular dress. But one of the things that Ishioka talked a lot about was that every one of the queen's costumes has some sort of jagged or sharp edge, something to basically indicate that she's evil. Everything about her is very kind of sharp and pokey, and you don't want to get close to her. Yep. And so that was very, very well done. And I think she was very successful with that. And also the fact that the queen is constantly this very vain character. And so the peacock feathers definitely helps emphasize that as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on. So you can kind of see the peacock feathers are actually the back of the queen's dress. But I wanted to pull, this is the one image I pulled of one of the ball gown dancers. But again, each of them was supposed to be some sort of an animal. But look at this costume. I don't even know what it is. It looks so gross.
It looks pornographic. It looks like...
It does.
You know what it looks like.
Yup. But I pulled this because, again, he's the 4th or 5th pairing or guy that's basically switched to dance with the queen. And she's, of course, waiting for the prince to show up.
Right.
But it's all these like gross looking other characters.
Is it like a walrus? Like, are those tusks coming down?
I think this is supposed to be a walrus. But yes, this particular shot, this was like all I could capture because there are no pictures of this online, of course.
That's a thing that I'm looking at.
Yeah, but you'll see that, and I wish I could pull other images. I'll probably pull a couple extra to put on the YouTube page or something. But there's a couple other pictures of just like there's a woman who's dressed as a sheep, and she's got these like giant like sheep's horns, and then there's like a unicorn, and like it's incredible. I can't even describe the amount of sheer costumes that Ishiyuka must have designed for this scene and all the other scenes. Okay, moving on.
Oh,
so then Julia Roberts has a green dress. And again, just sheer gorgeousness. I don't have too many notes about this one. But again, that same idea of the ragged edges and making everything look really sharp. This is when she's having breakfast with the prince and basically is trying to convince him that he needs to marry her and that they're going to have this wedding, whether he likes it or not. But one of the things I wanted to focus on was just like, oh my gosh, this beautiful like open petal that she's created right in the front. And it just goes to kind of show how creative Ishiyuka was with the silhouettes that she used, because you're not really seeing this in any kind of history book, like, yes, you're seeing the silhouette, but just the ways that she reutilizes fabric and creates such structure, and like, it's almost like origami that she's created here. And she's very good at that. She was
the queen of like fabric manipulation and like structure and like making fabric look the way you've never seen it look before, like really manipulating it. Because like this doesn't have any like trim on it, but it's so visually interesting.
Yeah, like ways to really create texture that we keep talking about without necessarily needing to have embroidery to showcase that.
Yeah, or
even though she also has embroidery too.
Spangles or whatever.
Yeah. So again, another color pairing that she's really, really good at. I wanted to showcase that the prince is in this almost like really deep purple, which he's in quite a lot of the movie. And then just in contrast with the green, she really used this kind of secondary color complement. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is the only other gold dress that she's got on, and I wanted to showcase the back because, again, I love a good pleating, but I mean, look at that. It's her night robe. This is like her sleeping gown.
Amazing.
So this is when she's actually about to drug the prince because, of course, he's refused to love her. So she finds a potion to basically force him to fall in love with her. And she asks the mirror for this. And, of course, the mirror warns her that there's going to be danger, working or playing with black magic. Mm-hmm. So she ignores that and then ends up giving him this drug, and he drinks it. And she finds out after he's already drank it that she basically gave him like a puppy love potion. So he basically ends up becoming like a human dog.
Oh,
so he starts like licking her on the face. He starts like jumping on her on the bed. And like, so it's this weird, and she's like, whatever, as long as you marry me kind of thing, because I just need your money. But again, just focusing on how beautiful the detail is in the work that she's created. And like, she only has the pleating on this train and this tail, and everywhere else it's just immaculate. And I think she's also got some really nice like knife pleats on her shoulders as well.
Beautiful.
So then we go to the wedding gown. One of the things I wanted to say about this dress, she's only ever in it for, I don't know, it's really not very long. It's maybe 10 minutes, not
Lord.
Even. Which is so sad because, of course, she comes to the wedding, and at this point, Snow White has been living with the dwarves, and she's been training, and she's learning how to fight and defend herself. Again, a very independent version of Snow White. Wow, no white.
no white. No white allowed.
So Snow White finds out about the prince's marriage and basically goes and kidnaps him and tries to break the spell. So she shows up at this giant party, which we'll see some more pictures of the ensemble because they're also incredible. But she shows up at this party with this giant dress, walks in, finds the prince missing, walks back out, and that's the end of the scene.
Oh, Lord.
I was like, oh, man. But one of the things I wanted to say about this dress is that apparently it weighed over 60 pounds. And it was 8 feet in diameter.
Oh, my God.
And apparently it was like so heavy and just so huge that Julia Roberts actually pulled a thigh muscle when she tried to turn in it.
Maybe that's why it was only on screen for 10 minutes or less.
So crazy. But apparently this dress, in addition to Snow White's later wedding dress, which we will see, were all made up to 35 yards of fabric.
Oh my God,
so I was like, that's insane. Wow. But like, again, I mean, everything was like 400 costumes custom made. This is definitely one of them.
And she doesn't half-ass any of them.
No, definitely not. There's no like sacrifice of quality in any of these. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Amazing.
I'm talking too long about all of these. These are just so great. But this is the wedding scene. So these are all of her guests from like the other royal wherever that in the land. And again, just looking at like the beauty of all of these costumes. One of the things that I will point out, which I think is so funny, is like at some point when the dwarves and Snow White crash this party to kidnap the prince, you know, because they're all dwarves, they all end up like squeezing themselves under all the women's skirts to just like hide themselves. And so this one lady that I'll point out, she actually has this giant bustle, and you find out like one of the dwarves ends up hiding under her bustle to try and like, you know, stay in hidden. And then she walks away from the bustle and the bustle just stays there. And you realize that it's just a detachable, like, decorative bustle.
That's cool.
So then you just see the dwarf, like, pop out and he's like, oh, shoot. And so he tries to follow her and basically bumps into her back. But it's just this hilarious moment that she's, like, made these very functional but beautiful costumes.
I love it.
So just some other close-ups, like how much color, like, it's so beautiful. And even like the wigs, and then she's almost got like a pincushion hat.
Yeah.
And like even his split hair, which is just so crazy. And then again, more pictures of just these are ensemble characters. Like they're essentially background, and she's just put so much work into it. Okay, so then moving on to Snow White's wedding dress, and I have a couple images of this, but again, like just look at the sheer detail of that smocking. It's just so intricate, and like I don't know if she did this by hand or if she had a machine to do this, but like so crazy,
so crisp.
And then just the sleeves that she's got. One of the things she talked about was that at the beginning she's very much about connecting with nature, but by the very end, she wanted this wedding dress to be very much like she was a present, kind of a wrapped present. And so you'll see that when I turn her around. So that's the back of the dress. It literally is like just a giant bow on the back of her dress, which I love.
So pretty.
So I'm going to focus a little bit on her and the princess. This is probably one of the only times I'll talk about the princess outfits because it's just so beautiful. But she's in a lot of kind of blues and golden yellows or like oranges throughout this movie. And those are the two color palettes that Ishioka has kind of stuck to with her. And I wanted to focus on this sleeve because, I mean, like, look at that ribbon that she's attached just on the bottom of that sleeve.
Wow.
It's just so incredible. Like every inch of her costume is just coated in detail and texture.
I love the lace. The lace is so geometric looking and delicate at the same time.
Yeah.
So pretty.
Yeah. And it's like you can tell she's chosen some very particular things. Like it's not like this is lace you could just buy off wherever online. Yeah. She's clearly made some very intentional choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just some more pictures of the back. I wanted to focus on the back of the princess as well because, again, just even this ribbon is just so luxe looking. You know, and it's definitely, it doesn't look like, there's a lot of ribbon that can look like this, but like a cheaper version of it. So like clearly this is sort of a notch up. And then there's the front of his jacket.
Oh, I like that.
Me too. Like all the little fringe, there's just a lot of movement, which I love. And then they have a really funny like Indian style dance at the end. Where it's like very clearly like Indian music or Indian inspired music, but then it's just them like dancing to the Indian music. So I'm just picturing him with all these tassels like moving back and forth. Okay, just another picture of the dress with her dwarves around her.
Pretty.
But you can see how vibrant the color is. And I think that's something that Ishioka was really good at and kind of did magic with a lot of her costumes. Because even in the fall, it's very similar. Like she looks very much at the background that they're up against and then really pushes the vibrancy of her costumes. Okay, and then I think this is my last one. So the final picture I wanted to focus on was just a picture of one of the guards Because, again, it's such a minor thing, but even the guards have so much detail. Like, she's given them this very kind of fish-like mask almost. And then they're just in this hardened kind of black leather for the rest of it. So yes, that's all I had. I mean, there's so many other beautiful costumes to look at in this movie that I just don't have the time to cover, but just the level of like impeccable precision that she's put into every single costume is so amazing. So R.I.P. Ishioka. I wish we could see more of your work and celebrate more of your work with the world. But yeah, this was just such a beautiful final project. And, you know, what a huge feat for her and Tarsem to be able to work on all of these projects together and be able to do some really beautiful work.
It's always so cool, like, when you find out that, like, they work with the same director over and over. And it's always like, oh, that's really nice. You know, like, they like each other and they collaborate well together. It's always nice to find those people in your professional life that you're like, we really come up with good stuff when we're together. You know, that's always cool.
Yeah. I think Tarsem mentioned that too. He was like, once I found Ishioka, I couldn't work with anyone else.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
She was like a legend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unparalleled.
And so humble too. I think that was one of the things a lot of the actors were saying. They were like, she didn't talk very much and she didn't have a lot of strong opinions. She was always just smiling like all the time. I was like, oh,
that's so nice
just
to
so
hear.
Wonderful.
Like, because a lot of us have, you know, like, don't meet your heroes. You know, a lot of famous people are not nice people. So it's
true. It's
really reassuring to hear that somebody you admire was a good person as well as being very talented.
Yeah. It's usually how it like, I feel like those are the people we respect more too. It's like when they're so good at their art, they are totally and like fully invested in their art. So it's not about the fame and receiving the recognition. It's about like, am I making something that's beautiful that represents who I am and what I want to give to the world kind of thing. So,
yeah, it should be about the work. It shouldn't be about you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's too much ego in our industry. We don't need more of it if it doesn't have to be there.
Amen to that.
Cool. Well, that was our episode for Fairy Tales.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. This was a fun episode to watch and record and pull together images for.
This was a really fun one. I have a feeling this will be a theme that we do several times because, like, there's just so much fun.
There's so many fairy tales out there, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We're back to our kind of regularly scheduled movie coverage. But yeah, keep sending us suggestions. I know we've gotten a few more suggestions already in our comments, so we'll add them to the list and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. But thanks so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and leave us a review if you can. We're still trying to donate $1 for every review that we get, and we've gotten some really nice ones.
Oh yeah, we really appreciate all of them. Like, and I've been like, they touch my heart every time they come in. I get so excited. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much.
It's always great to hear from people who are listening.
Yeah, I mean, when we started this, I was like, I think this is going to be great. I think we have a really good idea. And, but it's always really validating to know that other people actually like it. And it's not just us talking to each other and a void,
It's true. It's true. It feels like we are here with a group of other people and not just the two of us talking to one another.
Yeah, we want it to be like a real dialogue between us and the people who listen, because like we said, like we are professionals, but we're not experts. We want to hear other people's opinions and, your views, and we just want to talk about costumes with you because it's our favorite.
It's true. It's true. And as artists, I think we're constantly learning. So it's like, yeah, we're not experts. We know a lot of stuff, but also we're always learning from other people too.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
So I'm JoJo.
I'm Sarah.
Thanks for joining us on the Costume Plot.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Costume Plot. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Costume Plot. If you have a question, comment, or a movie suggestion, you can email us at thecostumplot@gmail.com.
Our theme music is by Jesse Tim, and our artwork is by JoJo Siu. Please rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts.